And so basically I joined this program in the first 3 months of learning how to do off-market real estate, from direct mail, building your brand, building a website, what other channels, there's SMS, there's cold calling, pay per lead, pay per click, all this kind of stuff that we can go into. I bet about $30,000 in marketing and hadn't done one deal over 3 months. And so I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? Is I left this, cushy W-2 job. I'm sure my colleagues thought I was crazy. And then landed my first deal.
Welcome back, real estate rock stars, at it again. Okay, I'm Shelby Johnson, and today I'm here with Dylan Koch out of Cincinnati, Ohio. He's been an agent since October of 2021 and has closed 100 plus, 35 of which were in the past year. And he does it as a solo agent. And I say that in like quotes, air quotes, you can see me. Because he's got a bookkeeper, he's got a virtual assistant behind the scenes, and he just brought on a full-time salesperson with his niche, which is off-market deals. So listeners, this is a really good one for you if you have investors hitting you up and are like, I'd love to work with you, but I really want off-market deals. And you're considering taking that venture on, because there's a lot more to it than it meets the eye. And I'm excited to dig into that today with you, Dylan. Welcome.
Yeah, Shelby, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Hell yeah. Okay, Dylan, how did you get into real estate?
So long story short is I actually, it was very much a rich dad, poor dad, like kind of upbringing, go to school, get good grades, kind of ingrained in me. So I did that. I went to school for 6 years, got my doctor of pharmacy degree. I was a pharmacist from 2017 up through 2021. And as I was doing that, really the thought process was, I'm going to make decent money. I should know what to do with it. So I kind of just went down this personal finance rabbit hole, went at it every way from a Dave Ramsey disciple is what I called it, to Robert Kiyosaki, and this never-ending rabbit hole. So eventually, to shorten that up, I bought my first house hack in June of 2018 here in the Cincinnati market. Continued to do pharmacy for, 3 more years. And then I went full-time in real estate October of 2021.
Okay. And between when you bought that first house hack in 2018 until when you left your job, was there zero real estate in between, or what was kind of the buildup?
So I actually had a friend of mine from pharmacy school that was very like-minded, very much in the same page of like wanting to build wealth and all this kind of stuff. It wasn't even like the retire early. We just wanted a lot of money. And we together built a portfolio of around 13 or so units over the next 2 years. And that was the BRRRR strategy, doing on-market, off-market, kind of a mix of both. And that partnership actually ended up separating. So I went back down to 0 units, a couple of years later. And then since I went full time in October 21, we've added 29 more units to the personal portfolio, and then plus all the transactional stuff that I'm sure we'll get into.
Okay, gotcha. So after you had that experience in between, you decided to go full time. And I know you are an agent, you have your license, but I believe your focus more is that off market type of investor first. Can you talk about your business as it stands?
Yeah, and that kind of started because back when I first started investing in 2018, I'd go on the local MLS, browsing Zillow, Realtor.com, all this kind of stuff, and you could still find deals that penciled on the MLS. And then as we kind of got into 2019, 2020, real estate was getting really hot, interest rates were continuing to drop on, I'm sure you remember around that time frame, and a lot of the deals on the MLS weren't making sense to me as an investor. And so I've done other things before. I joined a couple off-market mentorships that, I had to pay money to be in to learn kind of the ropes. And my philosophy is that you can learn anything from YouTube University, but if you can do it in a year and change that into 3 months, then that price of tuition is worth it to me. And so basically I joined this program in the first 3 months of learning how to do off-market real estate, from direct mail, building your brand, building a website, what other channels, there's SMS, there's cold calling, pay per lead, pay per click, all this kind of stuff that we can go into. I bet about $30,000 in marketing and hadn't done one deal over 3 months. And so I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? Is I left this, cushy W-2 job. I'm sure my colleagues thought I was crazy. And then landed my first deal. After that, it was like a $5,500 fee. So I was still very much underwater and all this. But luckily didn't give up. And, I've already talked about it, it's been very successful since. But if you want to give an overview of what our business looks like now, as you mentioned, it's me, which kind of runs like the day-to-day. We have a full-time bookkeeper, a VA that's more like a lead manager / cold caller. And I just hired a salesperson that's going to take off some of the responsibilities off of myself. But what we do is direct outreach, right? So we do a lot of direct mail. We have SMS campaigns. We do cold calling, and these are usually, pick your random motivation that you've probably heard other people talk about. High equity absentee landlords is a big one. Foreclosures, bankruptcies, liens, tax delinquencies, divorces, inherited properties. But I'm rambling a little bit, so I'll ask you the next question to get a little more granular. But that's it in a gist.
Okay, so let's say hypothetically, there's someone out there who hits up an agent and they say, I want off-market deals. Can we just go down a little bit into the rabbit hole of realistically what it takes in regard to how much outreach you're doing, how much you're spending, and the results that you receive in exchange?
Yeah, no, good questions. And so in my experience, an agent, especially if they are quote unquote an investor-friendly agent, they might have stuff come up, here and there from their network or other opportunities or flippers. And that might come up periodically, like really just like a needle in a haystack. But as far as what we've learned is, our fixed cost per month between all the softwares that we use for the list stacking, the CRM, the cold calling platforms, all this kind of stuff, our fixed costs are about $4,000 a month. And that doesn't even account for some of the direct mail, which usually ranges from $3,000 to $5,000 a month for us, right? So we're already looking at $7,000 to sometimes $10,000 a month in overhead just to get some of these leads to come in. And the best data I really have right now is with direct mail. So let's say we send out $3,000, which is about 70 cents a postcard. So you can do the math on that. We would hope to generate around 50 leads. And out of those 50 leads, we're hoping to really convert 1 to 2 of those leads that come in. So really our cost per deal for direct mail right now is around $3,000 in ad spend. That's to get 1 deal for direct mail.
So that alone just blew a bunch of people's minds for sure. Like $3,000 per deal to most agents who in the agent world, I do feel like marketing spending for marketing, budgeting for marketing is not so much of a thing. Like I hear agents proudly say all the time, like I've never paid for a lead, which was me for years. And honestly, like I personally within my agent business still haven't. But now my mindset, having done, work with CCF a little bit and, talking to more people within that off-market industry, it's like the amount that is spent on marketing is insane if you do want to see real results.
Yeah, and it's doing it consistently. Where I see a lot of early investors fail. It's like, oh, I sent out a direct mail campaign, but if you only do this one time, you might get lucky. You might get a deal the first batch. But really you need to do this consistently as the leads come in. So it's not like this, your business isn't going up and down as far as your lead flow. You need to continually start to market. And on that point, I guess a data set would be as when a lead comes in, speed to lead is very important in this business. Our average time from first contact to contract is around 2 months. And then usually contract to close is around 3. But you're still having to continually follow up. It's never, oh, I got your postcard. I want to sell my house. Please come take it from me. It's developing the rapport, meeting them where they're at, figuring out what their pain points are, and just using the real estate as the vehicle to solve whatever problem that they're going through.
Okay. And hypothetically, if, they're listening, they're like, I still want to do direct to seller marketing. I do want to commit to the $3,000 to $5,000 a month in direct mail. And let's just go down the direct mail route instead. Because I know there's we could go PPC or Facebook ads or all these different other things, but let's stick to direct mail. So you said from first contact until contract is 2 months, but you also mentioned that in the beginning, it took you 3 months to ever of putting out, marketing before you ever received even that $5,500 fee. So realistically, if someone is starting out, what is the time frame expectation as well as the financial contribution if they want to see or be a part of this world, really?
Yeah. So for me personally, it was 3 months and around $30,000 into it. But you got to realize as you're spending that 30 grand that I was spending, you're continually to build that pipeline. So that 30 grand turned into deals, but it was probably 6 to 8, 12 months later. Right. So you got to think about it that way. But I've been in multiple groups that only do off market real estate. I'd say the average is you need to commit 3 to 6 months as a minimum, and probably anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 out of pocket. And if you don't do a deal by then you have to look at something else. Are your leads actually coming in? If your leads are coming in, then you just have a conversion process. Or are the leads not coming in at all and we need to figure out a different kind of marketing?
And since you've done different types of marketing, because now if I'm listening to this, I'm like, man, why would I even do this? Why would I even do this type of marketing? If you were to do it all over again, would you do the direct mail route still? And if yes, then why?
If you're sitting in a position where you are liquid enough to make that commitment, then I would 100% still recommend it. If that's not going to financially strain you as an investor, as a person, then I would say yes, definitely do it, because we can do some deal deep dives. We got some great deals from this because these aren't deals that are actually hitting the MLS. Now, if you are a beginning investor, you're on limited funds, there are methods to go that are a little bit cheaper for a cost per deal or a cost per lead basis. And 2 to 3 months ago, I would have told you SMS and cold calling are like probably the number 1 and 2, with the caveat, this 10 DLC regulation that is now getting kind of hammered down is making that a little bit more difficult. So I would still recommend that, but with a grain of salt, is you're going to have a website. You're going to have to be certified in actual business. You can't just be Joe Smo trying to send out mass text messaging. Or door knock. I mean, the driving for dollars or stuff too, until you get your first lead and building up capital. But to us and a lot of people in this business, I would still say direct mail has the best return on investment and like return on ad spend for anybody.
Okay. And you mentioned before that you joined a mastermind to do this. So if there's someone out there who is specifically wanting to do direct mail and doesn't want to learn on their own on an island, feeling very like, am I even doing this right? What would you recommend? Like, this sounds kind of weird. Would you recommend going the route you would with, like, I don't want to throw them out there because that'd be weird if you're like, no, don't do them.
Yeah, no. I mean, shameless plug. I don't have any bad things. So I started in CCF, which is Ryan Dossey's program. And now I'm in a different one with Mike DeHaan and Dan Austin called the Instant Investor or Collecting Keys. I'm not really sure which one they go by. I would recommend both of them, honestly. And I'm always a fan of education first, and being able to shorten that learning curve. Like, both of them actually have a lot of free content out there. You can type in on YouTube, figure out what lists they're pulling, the cadence that they're mailing them, all this kind of stuff. So if you are more like time is your capital, like you are willing to put more time to this and actually do it, and you're just getting started, then do that first. It's going to be very niche to where you're at in your investing journey with what. But where I wanted to go was I wanted to go very fast, very quickly, because I was giving up this W-2 job and this income. So I wanted to get revenue as fast as possible, which in my opinion was the best way to do that. And I would absolutely do it again.
I want to talk about cold lead follow-up, because I've already mentioned before that most real estate agents have the stigma against paying, for marketing, but also I feel like there is it's a warm lead industry, or at least they want it to be. They don't want to have to, speed to lead and follow up and stay on it. They're, like, oh, I called and they didn't answer. Oh, well. So I would really love to talk about your process for interacting with the cold lead and your follow-up cadence from that point forward.
Sure. So when a lead comes in, whether that be from a cold call or a direct mail piece, we're really looking for like 5 main questions. That is, why are they interested in selling? What is their timeline? What is the condition of the property? Why not use an agent? And then, price point, obviously. And those are no specific order, but if you can get those 5 things, you can really figure out, what to do. And let's say someone calls in, for some reason we missed the call or whatever, and we need to get them back on the phone. Our cadence is basically 1 phone call and 1 text message per day for the first 10 days. And if we can't get a hold of them, they go into a drip campaign that's inside of our CRM. That's still a follow-up. I think it's every other day for 2 weeks. And then eventually they'll get marked as either a dead lead or we'll move on. But if someone comes in and, you kind of develop rapport with them And our initial point of contact is we are okay at this point with getting all the information we need, asking things like roof, mechanicals, that kind of stuff, making the offer over the phone. And then it'll be me that I only do Cincinnati and this is where I live. So then I will go to the property myself, verify the condition of the property, and then we'll already have it under contract. And then we'll either keep it, dispo it, burr it, or we'll have to retrade if they were not truthful on the condition of the property or they just didn't know.
Okay, I'm curious about, so you mentioned cold calling or direct mail. So direct mail, they are calling you. They received the piece of mail they were interested in. So clearly they want to talk. They're contacting you.
Yeah.
With the cold call, that's a little different, right? They're like, who are you?
Yeah. So I would consider both of them. Sorry, finish your question.
No. Go for it.
Both of them are definitely considered like what I would consider like cold outreach, right? Where we're actually reaching out to them and then they're having to call, like either respond to us. Direct mail is a little bit, as you mentioned, like of a warm lead because they at least chose to pick up the phone and call you. And so automatically that's why I like direct mail more than the other methods because there's some inherent motivation there no matter what. And yes, you're going to get the phone calls that tell you go fuck yourself and that kind of stuff, which is fine. Like just actually mark them as do not contact and leave them alone. That's fine. But when the cold calling, it is definitely more of a, we've had leads in the CRM since January of 2022 that were like, I'm closing on one today, that it was a lead since then. And that was a cold call lead. But those are more like, yeah, there's probably some inherent motivation, but now is not the right time. And so it's in the CRM, I would say is very important in creating these tasks inside of the CRM. So these leads don't go by the wayside because if you want to differentiate yourself in this off-market business, not only is it consistent marketing, but consistent follow-up is probably even more important. And so that is every 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. And yes, this is going to be seller specific sometimes, but you have to develop some kind of cadence or protocol inside of your own CRM. So that way you're continuing to follow up with these people. Did that answer your question?
It did. Okay. So we went down like the specific cadence for if you missed the call, you're doing 1 phone call a day, 1 text per day for 10 days. Then you're shifting over to the campaign for X amount of weeks until whatever. So they did pick up and let's just say they're not ready to sell now. Yep. And they say, I'm interested, but hypothetically 6 months down the road.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what your follow-up cadence and those conversations look like from there?
Yeah. So, 9 times out of 10, if a seller tells you 6 months, we're going to follow up in 3, right? And just kind of see what has changed in those times. There's a lot can change in a short amount of time, but we'll literally just go inside. We'll make our notes inside of our CRM. And like, hey, we talked to Mrs. Smith last Tuesday and this was a summary of our call, and all the calls are recorded too, so you can go back and listen to it. But then we'll create a task inside of our CRM that sends a notification to either me or the lead manager, whoever that lead's responsibility is, that says, follow up. Here are the touch points from the previous conversation, and it's really just, hey, hey, Mrs. Smith, I know we talked, back on October 1st. You're thinking about selling your house. Has anything changed since then? And it's a very open-ended question, and letting them come out and say, no, hey, give me 2 more months, or, yes, I'm ready to sell now. And you can still ask those leading questions like, what is preventing you from selling? Like, that's the whole point of trying to figure out the seller's problem. So what is preventing you from selling now? Is that you can't find somewhere else to go, and you can help them do that. The significant other isn't on board, and you can have a conversation with both of them at the same time. So I would say it's a balance between giving them their space and what they desire, and also making sure you're pulling out with open-ended questions what the true problem is from them moving forward, and see if you can solve that problem to execute the deal.
Here's a quick commercial break from our sponsor, Ryan Pineda.
If you are trying to grow your real estate investing business, then you need to join us at Wealthy Investor. If you have no idea what Wealthy Investor is, it is our coaching program and community. We have helped thousands of students worldwide grow their business. Now, it doesn't matter if you're just getting started and you're trying to get that first deal. We can help you do that. If you're trying to scale your business and go from a few deals a year to a few deals a month, or even 7 figures a year, we can help you do that too. In fact, last year alone, we had over 30 students do over $1 million in revenue. And I'd love for you to be the next one. So it's pretty simple. If you're trying to grow your business and wholesale more homes or flip more homes or buy more rental properties, then you need to go to wealthyinvestor.com and book a free call with our team. It's super simple. We'll go on a strategy call with you and figure out how we can help you grow according to your needs. So all you got to do is go to wealthyinvestor.com, book the free call with the team, and we'll see you there.
Now back to the show.
Okay, I just want to confirm, I might have missed it, but you mentioned that if there was 6 months, then you would follow up in half the time.
Yep.
So you truly would wait like 3 months before calling, or do you just because my thing is I'm like, trust no one, but I also don't want to be annoying. So I'm just curious, like truly about what your process is.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time we would. Now, will we send a text messaging reminder that says, hey, Mrs. Smith, been thinking about you, happy holidays, that kind of stuff? Yes. Yeah, we would do that. So we remain top of mind. But we really aren't as pushy as I think maybe some people in the space are. Maybe that's a detriment to us. Maybe we should be more, frequency in that. But that's just how we do it currently.
No, it's good. I mean, no one likes pushy. And I think that the gentle touches like, hey, been thinking about you, happy holidays, where it's not like I need an answer from you, but hey, I still exist. Like I love those.
And I want to touch on something, Shelby. You brought up a good point.
Yeah.
And I usually always tell the sellers, this business is very competitive. You are probably going to talk to other investors like that I'm trying to do. But if we develop a good enough rapport, hey, will you at least give me the next shot to match any offer that comes in? Or will you call me before you actually sell this place to see if I can beat it? And that's been times before, your exact situation where they're not ready for 6 months, but then they call me hey, Dylan, I got an offer. I want to know your thoughts on it. And then if it's the best deal for them, sometimes it's Mrs. Smith, I think you should take it. I can't beat that. Or it's, I actually think I can beat that. Let's have another conversation.
You mentioned something else that I really like too. It's the importance of using a CRM in your conversations. Like you mentioned when you follow up, it's hey, Ms. Smith, I know we talked on October 1st. Has anything changed since then? Being able to reference notes, know exactly when you talked will mean a lot to them. Not only does it mean a lot to you and your confidence in your conversation, because you actually remember what you read what you talked about, but also to them, it's they remembered me even more than I remember them. And now I feel like I owe them something more. There's a lot of psychology packed into that.
Well, 100%. And the law of reciprocity or whatever it is, the Go-Giver is one of my favorite books. So that's a shameless plug for that book. But it talks about that too. And this bit, people aren't going to sell you a piece of real estate or let them help you unless they trust you. Right. And so it is figuring out if they have health issues, they're hey, how was your doctor's appointment, back in October, right? Just those kind of small nuances inside the conversation and actually meaning it, actually caring, is probably the reason why we're able to do, I think, more deals than some of our competitors.
I have a question on the lead manager and the fact that you just hired a salesperson, because in my experience, of course, you don't want to be the one who's following up on all, because especially with doing the amount of, mail that you guys are doing, and you want as many leads as possible, but each one of those conversations, dictates a follow-up, and that stacks so quickly. It compounds every single day. And before you know it, you're going in your CRM and you have 1,000 people to touch base with, and you're head's going to explode. Flip side of that, though, I found that hiring someone to speak on behalf of your company and your business can leave an insane amount of money on the table, because they don't understand in depth. They haven't gone through the CCF training. They haven't watched all the, YouTube videos and done all of that to build the level of depth that you have, so you can handle all the situations. So what has your experience been on hiring a lead manager, and do you resonate with anything that I just said?
Yeah, no, 100%, Shelby. And, I will also do a couple of flips that I'm kind of the project manager on. So having to manage that on top of all this stuff, it does get overwhelming. And I think if you want to make this an actual business, you're going to be very self-limited if you just try to do everything yourself. And you're going to shoot yourself in the foot a lot. So when I brought on a lead, this will be my third one. So to just kind of touch on that, it's I've had to go.
Great point. Yeah.
And now we're using a VA placing agency who does a lot of the training and support for you. So I'm paying, like, you can probably hire a VA from the Philippines for $4 to $5 an hour off Fiverr, Upwork, which I did at the beginning. Then you have to be very detailed and give them the policies and procedures and things that you want in order for that conversation to happen. But now that we use this placing agency, I'm paying $10 an hour for a VA. But they go through and they kind of develop these, the 5 questions that we talked about earlier. They're kind of qualifying the lead for me and also trying to develop rapport with the seller. And then now they're kind of like now the warm handoff to me, and then will be now the sales guy that I'm bringing on. So my experience in general has touch points are better than no touch points. So even though the conversations aren't maybe to par where I want them to be, at least getting in touch with them so I can call them back later is better than me not contacting or talking to them at all.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And it's also a numbers game. That's something that I had to battle in the beginning with, like, wanting to make sure the campaigns, every word was perfect and like had, an authentic representation of who I am. And I wanted that to come through in lead management and like the whole thing. And at some point there is a line. You just have to take a step back, release that, and realize that it is a numbers game. It's about the contacts, and hitting those people just happen to be on the day that they decide, but you can never hit them if there is no outreach. So
right. No, you're 100% right, Shelby. I think what's the saying? If someone can do it 80% as well as you can, like, delegate it. And that percentage is probably been lower for this type of work, but it's still more important than no contact at all.
Okay, and I want to loop back real quick. In the beginning, you mentioned $3,000 to $5,000 a month. I'm trying to find it on my notes. It was $3,000 to $5,000 a month in direct mail, and I think it was $4,000 in fixed costs. Did those $4,000 also include the lead management pay?
Yeah, that included the $1,600 a month essentially for the VA and the bookkeeper with that. But the rest of it is kind of like a tech stack. I actually have it pulled up because I was doing it earlier today. If you give me just a moment, I can tell you kind of how it's broken down.
That would be great. And actually, we always ask our guests to provide a tool or a checklist or a cheat sheet or something for our listeners. So if it's something that you have in a document, or if you have anything that jumps to mind based on our conversation so far, will you please give it to me?
Yeah,
I can give it to our listeners.
I can upload this Excel sheet. That won't be a problem at all. So just as some examples, RE Simply, which is the software, the CRM that we use, is $167 a month. PropStream, which is like where we pull most of our lists, $224 a month. A list stacking software, $129. A skip tracing service for $58. Dropbox, Google Suite. So we have like all of our, app business, Zapier, GoDaddy, and then our, how to say this, like the electronic signing service is another one. So if I just do like the tech stack of the CRM, the list pulling, that kind of stuff, it's $794 a month. And then the SMS is $1,000, and then the VA is $1,600. So do all that as kind of take it as you wish, and do the percentages. But the marketing is by far the most expensive part of this, and then the people part of it as well.
And what are your numbers looking like these days? So you have, the variable up to $10,000 a month in expenses, but what is your income looking like, and how many deals is that?
Yep, pull it right up. So year to date revenue is $576,666. That's across around 30 deals. Our revenue per deal is just under 20 grand. And that is a mix of assignments, fix and flips, and wholesales. So
that's year-to-date revenue. What is year-to-date expenses?
So I'd have to go into it. We're around a 60% profit margin.
Damn, that's good.
Yeah.
60, yeah, dude, yeah. Congrats.
Yeah, we invest here financially for us ever. So.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. And you mentioned assignments, flips, wholesales. So with the flips, you are the agent. of course.
Correct. Yeah. Yes.
Some people are, listening, they're like, ooh, how do I navigate that being an investor and also an agent? What are the conversations with the sellers look like? I want to disclose. I never want to lose my license. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of the marketing I'm an agent on it. All of our contracts say that this is my license number. I'm licensed in the state of Ohio, but we are not acting in any fiduciary responsibility. And those are the initial conversations that we have with a bunch of sellers. And these situations are not, in my experience, not to throw agents under the bus, but aren't situations that agents are usually experienced with. You walk in on some very, honestly sad situations with a lot of these sellers where speed is more important than equity. And so that's where a lot of this comes in. When you're flipping this on the back end, totally fine. You just have to disclose that you're also the agent owner. And that helps us as far as deal flow, because I don't have to pay myself really a huge sell side commission on the fact. That actually helps us when we're presenting deals. My biggest answer to that, Shelby, is just make sure you disclose and that you're an agent and you're not really acting in a fiduciary responsibility to some of the sellers that you're working with in these environments.
But also, I think something that you said that was really important is that, and I forget the exact words, but coming from a place of genuinely trying to help people. Because I think that a lot of people who do direct to seller market, investors in general, and especially if you drop the word wholesale, oh my God, people are like, oh, that's, so slimy and that's not okay. And yes, absolutely, there are total shit people out there, whether they're agents or whether they are investors. But I was hoping maybe just for expanding the mindset, what are examples of some of those situations where you were able to genuinely help someone? Yeah,
good question. And honestly, what you're just touching on is something I struggled with at the beginning because it was such a negative connotation for me at the beginning. But once you are around people who do this the right way, you learn that it can be beneficial for all parties. And so to provide an example, there was a elderly gentleman who was on a fixed income, Social Security. He had refinanced his property in 2016 or 2017. He could no longer afford or keep up with the property because he's very up there in age. He didn't have any local family. And he called me and he's basically he got one of our letters and he's like, hey, I'm interested in selling. I need to be at this number because this is what my payoff is. And I went out there and we actually paid him a little bit more than what he needed to because it would provide him with some help moving forward. We also found an apartment for him to go to that's a first level senior living kind of a place that he could afford. And he, in that specific instance, he had almost contacted me too late where the foreclosure was the next week. And in our county specifically, there is a 30-day redemption period. So we were still able to buy it technically post foreclosure, get him out of the house. We gave him 2 weeks post closing. He's got some money in his pocket to kind of help with the moving costs, get him situated. And then we could come in, do our flip, get it back on the market and sell it. And we'll still make, I think, 30 to 40 grand on the property. So not a huge deal, but it was able to help the seller, put him in a new, better environment. And now he doesn't have this foreclosure on his record either.
Yeah, super cool example for that. And I think just in general, to go back on helping people, coming from it in a place of trying to help and not pushing in any direction. So and that's the cool thing about, being an investor and an agent is that you have more opportunities. If it is, in his case, time is of the essence and you have to move quickly and there's a certain type of, it wouldn't work if you just listed it on the MLS and did a traditional 30 to 40 day close. Yeah. But, hypothetically, if that had been the right situation for him, then you can pull out the different hat. And it just gives you so many tools to help people. Yeah, there's another one where we offered and we could not come to an agreement on cash price. He wasn't distressed at all. He was just an older guy. And I was like, hey, I forget his name. I think his name was Tom. But hey, Tom, if you want, we won't make a deal as a cash investment. But if you're interested, I'll list the property for you. And that was another just turned into just on the listing side, another deal, which was still very investor friendly. He was happy. So it's just another tool in your tool belt. Dude, I know we're going to get some hate for this show though. Like, even if it's like coming from a place, like a good heart, what's best for, like, there's still people out there who are like, this is not okay. But I mean, I guess you can't speak to everyone.
Yeah. And I don't know, this business, because it has a low barrier to entry, does attract some of the wrong people. And that was very
totally
the past like 2 years. Personally, I've seen a big slowdown in that here locally in our market. But those people aren't around forever, right? It's just like there's bad cops, there's bad doctors, there's bad agents. Like it goes along with the territory.
Totally. Okay, Dylan, what did we not talk about today that you think might be good for our listeners who are primarily residential agents? There's some investor agents out there, but like, is there anything that we missed that you thought might be good?
For residential agents, it's hard for me to give solid advice because my business isn't around that. But I think as a general business principle, I would just look at if you're like kind of the principles we talked about earlier. Are you using a CRM, and then are you following up appropriately? Are you first of mind when these people actually want to come in and either buy or sell a property?
Yeah, good advice. And what does the future hold for you, Dylan?
Yeah, so I just mentioned we just had our first sales hire yesterday. So he's going to come in hopefully the beginning of 2024. And with that, we're probably going to increase our marketing spend a little bit. I personally want to add more units to the rental portfolio, which is just a challenging environment right now with rates where they're at. But we're hoping to do, 7 figures in revenue next year. But that's a good goal to have, but we'll see if we get there or not.
Dude, I'm stoked. I'm going to follow along in the journey. But as we head into the wrap-up questions, we're gonna say where listeners can find you in just a minute. But question number 1, what is something cool that you've learned recently? It doesn't have to be business or real estate related, just like something where you're like, oh, wow, that's cool.
I don't know, Shelby. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to cheat a little bit and say that redemption period that I talked about earlier, I didn't know you could do that up until we did that with that specific property. Because I talked to a local real estate attorney and asked him if there's anything that we could do to help this guy. And that's when I learned that she could do that. Never knew that.
Dude, that is cool. Definitely something cool that you've learned recently. Yeah. Okay. What events are you going to in the next 12 months, if any? So the mentorship program I'm in now, that Collecting Keys with Mike and Dan, they host an event once a year. This past one was just in Scottsdale, Arizona, but we'll be going next year. I don't think they've disclosed the location yet, but I would definitely be attending that again in 2024. Dude, it's so funny. I saw that because, I follow them too. Yeah. And they had was that their first mastermind retreat?
Yep.
Yeah. So that was their first one. It was on the same weekend that we did our Pillars retreat and for 5 Pillars Nation. And so I was like watching it come out, and then I was like racing with the content. They beat us, coming out with the recap video and stuff.
Yeah. We're on top of it. You got to be better. You got to be faster, Shelby.
I got to be better. You're right. Speed, right? Yeah. That's okay. Okay. How can listeners help you in your business?
Yeah, I'm very local to the Cincinnati area. I've been here for a while. So if anything, anybody that wants to buy, sell, have a good connection. I love talking to other investors as well in the Cincinnati area. Send them my way, and more than happy to really talk to anybody about real estate.
And where can people find you?
Yeah, all social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's all 11D and then Koch, which is Koch.
X. Isn't it X now, Dylan?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. X. Don't ever be X to me. I called Twitter for too long.
Right. Well, and Facebook, is Facebook Meta now?
I think so. I think technically
is Facebook gone?
Trade the stock, but who calls it? I'm going to get on Meta. No one does that.
No. Yeah, exactly. Totally. Okay, cool. Well, you heard it from Dylan. Go to all the social media platforms, show him love. And if you're driving and you missed it, they will be linked in the show notes. So go hang out with him. And if you want to hang out with me and the owner of the show, we are The Shelby Show and Aaron Amuchastegui on the gram. Hit us up. We love talking to you guys. And otherwise, guys, that is all we have for today. Actually, let me know how you felt about this episode. I would love to know if you were horribly offended, if you were like, wow, that was great information. I've never thought about the investor agent, side that way. So please don't hold back, which now I'm terrified for saying that. Not really. Thick skin, bring it. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. Dylan, thank you so much for coming on the show. And Real Estate Rockstars, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for having me.